right. Here we go. What's happening, everybody? Oh, that's really soft. I got to turn that up so I can hear it. All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the show. It's Monday. Hope you had a good weekend. I had a productive weekend, I should say. Things are looking good. And I think I'm prepared for my week. Got to make a couple ads for a couple special events coming up. But there is a whole lot of stuff that happened over the weekend. Plus, the article that you see right there. Right there, up there, that thing. I absolutely laughed out loud when I saw it, and it made me think, my God, are we so obsessed with being oppressed? And I'm talking about us people of color, the melanated, the trans, the gay, everybody who wants to be oppressed or find ways to be oppressed. White women, we're all finding a way. And my God, even in science, there's a science of oppression. But there's a little caveat to that, because something that I figured out about Scientific American after I saw this article. So we're going to go through that, and then there's a whole bunch of just headlines, news, things to talk about for the week. If you make videos, if you write blogs, boy, do I have a list, and I will give you all of it right after the intro. So, Johnny, let's play that intro. Johnny, stop the music! Play the intro.
Ladies and gentlemen, coming to you live from the Lucky Dog studio in a hidden location somewhere in the upper Midwest of the United States of America, it's a brother making his own way, but with all the wrong opinions. Welcome to the Morning Night Live with your host, the one and only P-Dog Knight.
Yes, yes, yes. In the immortal words of Joe Cocker, if you can figure out what song I'm talking about, put it in the chat. There's a song that Joe Cocker sings where he says, yes, yes, yes. And if you know that song, well, figure it out. I'll tell you later if you remind me, because I may forget. Anyway, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Night Live. I'm your host, Marty, also known as P-Dog Knight on the internet. Welcome back to the P-Dog Knight channel, where we obsess obsessively over obsessions that are obsessive. I want to just say, I saw some stuff on my timeline on Twitter over the weekend that just made me go, would you people stop it? Just stop. It's like, you got to be kidding me. And so that's where I came up with that up there, this right here, oppression, obsession, because we have one in this country. And I think it's developed over time, where there's a lot of people out in the world who figured out that being oppressed can be very, very good to you, or very, very good to me. And I think thank you, Advocatus Diablo. Oh my gosh, you got it. Yes, you can leave your hat on. That's the song. Baby, take off the dress. Yes, yes, yes. You can leave your hat on. You can leave your hat on. You can leave your hat on. Yes, anyway, that's the song. And we have our first donor of the day. That'd be Gunfox61. Gunfox61, you are the new Streamlabs Superstar sponsor of the day. Dropping a Hamilton in the tip jar. Thank you, sir. And also dropped an article that I'm afraid to open. But I'm going to open it just because... Wait, where the hell did it go? It didn't do anything. Oh, there we go. What did you send me? Oh, interesting. All right. We'll try to get to that today. If not today, for sure tomorrow. Anyway, I got a lot to talk about because especially this one article, and it kind of gave me a little insight into what's happening with our scientific community, because our scientific community seems to be infected with the a lot of the same woke nonsense that well, look, here's the problem. I've talked about this before too. The Tumblr generation, I would say the Tumblr generation was coming of age roughly in the early 2010s, right? And the obsession with intersectionality and you know, intersectional feminism and all that stuff, which kind of started pushing the actual feminists out of the way. And a lot of these people who went to school in these years between, probably, I'm going to say maybe 2005 to 2020, between 2005 and 2020, a lot of those people are suddenly becoming into positions where they're getting influence and power within companies and within publications, and within journalism. And you're starting to see this, all the stuff that we used to laugh about, SJWs, you know, back in the day when they were called SJWs still. And now we kind of just call them the woke. Well, a lot of those people are in power now. Not that they haven't been for a long time. Look, I had a college professor. I told you about this the other day. I had a college professor where, you know, it was a communication course, and almost the entire course was books that were left-wing politics. So like The Population Bomb, we talked about Paul, whatever his name is, who wrote The Population. That was one of the books assigned in that class. And every book, everything we read in that class was something like that. It was either doomsday or talking about how, you know, everything would be better if we just started giving people money and this and that. And I was like, okay, it really, that's when it dawned on me that my college education, a lot of it was just straight up indoctrination. Well, a lot of these people who've been indoctrinated are now in power in places, and that's why you're starting to see it in government. You've seen people like Cori Bush talking about, you know, using gender neutral pronouns, and you know, people like this person who runs Scientific American, the new editor-in-chief at Scientific American, has turned Scientific American into an advocacy, into and what's the word? Activist magazine versus just a science. It used to be very neutral. Okay. So we'll get into that in a minute, but Gunfox, another Hamilton in the tip jar. Thank you, sir. Now what do I do there? Oh, RGT. Oh, good Lord. Yeah, this is interesting too. I'll try to get to these today, Gunfox, I promise. All right. So, another article in fact, I will get to these today because you've been so kind to me. So anyway, so let's start the day by saying good morning, because that's what I do here. Now, let me do this real quick though. As you know, I'm doing a special edition of the Morning Night Live on Wednesday, 4 o'clock Eastern, 3 p.m. Central, where I'm bringing in Mr. Nick Rekieta, the strip mall lawyer from central Minnesota, law explaining the internet, grifter extraordinaire, the purveyor of large trials like the Rittenhouse trial, the Waukesha SUV driver trial, the Johnny Depp trial. Fantastic. Does a fantastic job presenting these and bringing on great people to talk about those trials. So we're going to be talking with him on Wednesday afternoon, again, 4 o'clock Eastern, 3 o'clock Central. And then on Friday, we're going to be celebrating my 4th year anniversary of the Morning Night Live with Hard Bastard. And I probably bring in a few other guests, but mainly Hard Bastard. A lot of you guys follow him too and see him regularly. So he's going to be here on Friday. And then roughly February 10th, we're going to celebrate the 1000th episode of the Morning Night Live. That's going to be a cavalcade of stars. We're going to bring in all kinds of people and have a lot of fun that day. So anyway, just want to let you know those things are coming up. But Wednesday, 3 o'clock my time, Central, 4 o'clock Eastern, with Rekieta. And then the regular show on Friday will be the 1-year anniversary of the Morning Night Live. Real quick, thank you also, Reaccion de Puerto Rico, for sponsoring the show, dropping a deuce in the tip jar via YouTube Super Chat. Seems they had a Jan-teenth in Brazil. Yes, they did. Now, I'm going to talk about that this morning, but I am not by any stretch of the imagination an expert on Brazilian politics. I only really pulled up one article about it. We'll get to it, though. I want to say good morning, everybody, though. First, the chat over on Rumble. Simon Wolfwood, who gets the bell. Nicely done, sir. Also, good morning, Avocados Diablo. Mike Savage, Blarg. And that's everyone over on Rumble. Now, Rumble, if you noticed, they changed their look a little bit. If you haven't noticed, if you go over there, it's a little more viewer-friendly. And then they also made they changed the plusy. You know, they had the little plus sign. Now they just have a real thumbs up, just like YouTube does. But you can also follow me. Make sure you're following me over there. Also on Odyssey, I am P-Dog Night on both those, just in case something happens over at YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, like I said, I encourage you to follow me there also. On YouTube, first in the chat today was Jimmy Das Hotep, who gets the bell. Well done, Jimmy Das Hotep. Also, good morning to the one who, also formerly known as the one who tubes, Simon Bull Nation, Tyrannus. Hang on a second. I got to do this. Tyrannus Alexandrius Tremere Lich. Good morning, sir. Every once in a while, I got to do that. Good morning, also Simon Wolfwood. Jay Pylon's in the house from Hotep Nation. Avocados Diablo. Avocados Diablo, the Devil's Advocates. Mike Savage, Blarg. Septus Wolf, Rotten Corpse. Good morning. Also, Cool Frog. What's up, my brother? Nice to see you. The man with the beard, the myth, the legend. Good morning. Also, Now What, my friend from high school, who says, "Let's good morning, sunshine dudes. We'll ask a girl out 15 times until she says yes and call it the speaker method, but the concessions he's going to have to make are going to be killer." I'm not sure I understand that, but yes, that is, that's guys who are persistent, might happen, just don't give up, guys. If you're single and you've someone you're interested in, don't be a stalker, but be, say once in a while you can be persistent without being weird. I haven't had to do this for over almost 30 years now, or 31 years, I guess, because, that's how long I've been married. Anyway, also good morning to Aaron Meredith's in the house. My favorite Canadian Jaeger ponies here. Good morning also to Hig from the home base in Florida. Rockhopper, my friend from down under. Also, good morning to, am I missing anybody? Tribute Liberty's in the house. Kessler's in the house. Attack Alpaca. Jethro Hetero. San Reaccion Puerto Rico, who's already sponsored the show this morning. Also, good morning to, am I missing anybody yet? Anybody? Simon Wolf, I got some. HP Lovecraft's in the house. Nice to see you. And Pissed Off Shih Tzu, welcome back. I haven't seen you for a while. Good to have you back. All right, let's just get through some headlines first, because there's a lot of little I'm going to touch on them, but I don't know enough about them to say too much, but at least you get to know what's happening in the world. Oh, gosh. Oh, my. Oh, hold up. I got it. Let me just, I just saw something on Twitter that made me laugh clearly out loud. And I'm going to post this next to the Brazil talk, because this is hilarious. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. Give me a second. Okay, here we go. Let's get into some headlines of things that are happening around the world before we get into our main topic. By the way, before I do that too, I got to say thank you to some people. Thank you, Somnambule Nation and Man Squatch, Tyler F. for retweeting the show. Please do me a favor. This show is sponsored by you. This show is powered by you. This show is successful because you are here all the time, and it's one of the reasons I come back too. Good morning, Lord Stanhope, by the way. So please, if you do me a favor, whatever social media you're using, put this out on social media. I would just link the show, whatever, just share the show, hit the like button. There's only 20 people, a few likes yet on both Rumble and on YouTube. And then also, if you want to sponsor the show, like some people have already done, you can do it through YouTube. PDogNight.live is why is that off center today? That's weird. PDognight.live or YouTube Super Chats are great. Venmo, Cash App are in the description down below, so if you want to do that. So let's get into some headlines. All right, first, now the big one is Brazil over the weekend. Now there is just massive uprising in Brazil, and the thing that made me laugh will be the second half of this. Now, like I said, I haven't followed it that closely. I just know that there's been an insurrection, but this one kind of is a little more real. This is like people. Rick Ashbringer's in the house too. Nice to see you, brother. This one is a little more real than ours was. Ours was more like a protest, and people went home after 5 hours without much pushback, other than the police said, "Okay, you guys got to go," and they're like, "Okay, we're gonna go." And then once they got home, then the FBI came out and arrested everybody, and a lot of them are still in jail without charges. But which is, they're political prisoners and shit. But I didn't say that too much out loud. Here we go. Thousands of opponents in Brazil, this, by the way, thousands of opponents of socialist convicted felon president. Now that's interesting how Breitbart start this, which means this tells me Breitbart isn't fond of this man. This is funny to me, just how they wrote this. But anyway, thousands of opponents of socialist convicted felon president Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva stormed his offices and the headquarters of the Congress and Supreme Federal Tribunal of Brazil, Sunday, reportedly demolishing the facades of 2 of the 3 buildings and causing irreparable damage to priceless artifacts in the chamber. Now, a lot of people are already comparing this to our own January 6th, and actually the thing that made me laugh will be the next thing I show you. But note the differences here. Note the differences already. These people in Brazil aren't messing around. They're going to getting their freedom. They're already breaking shit, right? And they're mad. These people are mad, and I'm not sure. But anyway, the riot in Brasilia occurred while Lula himself was in Sao Paulo state assessing the damage of recent floods. Lula, in a public statement following police action to subdue the protesters, announced an official federal intervention in Brasilia, consolidating the public security powers of several agencies into the hands of a hand-picked top-level official, and accused police of acting in bad faith and failing to prevent the protesters from storming the buildings. The incident is an offshoot of months of protests following the October presidential election that saw Lula narrowly defeat then-incumbent President Jair? I don't know how you say it, really. Jair Bolsonaro in 2 rounds of voting. Most protesters support Bolsonaro, but more broadly oppose Lula's victory as illegitimate on several grounds, including his multiple convictions on charges of corrupt acts occurring during his first 2 terms as president. An audit of the 2022 runoff presidential election, which featured only Bolsonaro and Lula as candidates by the armed forces of Brazil, concluded that no guarantee could be made of the absence of fraud or irregularities. So like I said, I don't follow the politics of Brazil. I know that a lot of people would compared Bolsonaro and called him the Brazilian Trump and all that stuff. And, he's very, very, what's the word for hard-headed? I don't know. He's that guy in Brazil, right? Good morning, Damian Gershwin, by the way. I don't follow it that closely, but it's, the parallels at least are somewhat interesting. Now, they have all kinds of video in this Breitbart article. Again, by the way, all these articles they talked about today, as usual, will be in a single link in the description in both YouTube and Rumble, where it's called a one-tab link. It'll be in the second paragraph. You click the link, and every single article will be on one page. You can find it. This will be near the top because it's one of the first ones I have. They have lots of video of the occurrences. I don't know what this one is. Let's see here. This is, I can't even read it because it's in Portuguese. So, Forças Armadas, faca se computer. I can't read that. Anyway, let's see what this said, dudes. Okay, it's a lot of stuff in language that I understand, but they're protesting, right? So anyway, let's see. The Brazilian news network, Jovem Pan, reported that what began as a peaceful protest on Sunday against Lula veered out of control as nearly 100 buses from around the country drove into the capital. Overwhelming numbers of police on the streets. The protesters torn out a barricade, keeping them off the congressional building's esplanade, and climbed on atop of it, storming its roof while hundreds of others destroyed the glass facade below. Mob succeeded despite police attempting to hold back the wave of people with tear gas. So, like I said, similar but different to that day that they're still talking about, which I got to talk about a little bit today too. But again, not being no expert in this kind of stuff, I am not going to make any editorial opinions, nor do I, I'm not interested in discussing whether or not the Brazilian election had irregularities or not. That's for the people of Brazil to decide. I'm just an outside spectator reading articles on the internet. So there you go. Oh, terrorist, what? Let's see, my experience. Okay, anyway, but the funny thing that I saw just now before I read this article on Twitter was this tweet from, what's his name, Ron Filipkowski or something like that. And this is hilarious. Here he goes. The fingerprints of the organizers of our insurrection are all over what is happening in Brazil. Many former Trump advisors directly involved in instigating this. Until they're held accountable, they'll just keep getting worse. That's a conspiracy theory that deserves a... Give me a break. Come on. We can't do anything in this country without being at something to do with Donald Trump. I'm just sorry. This is crazy. These people are loony. And then Luke Zaleski, who's an anti-Trump guy. 8 stages of Trump guilt. I didn't do it. I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything illegal. People accusing me are guilty. The law is illegal. Prove it. What happened didn't happen. It's fine. I did it and I'll do it again. Go fuck yourselves. But anyway, people are laughing at Ron It's Filipkowski. Some people are laughing at him. Some people are applauding. The Mike Tyson, I'm laughing at your stupid ass meme. That's great. Anyway, it's all hilarious, and I'll try to get myself up to speed on what's happening in Brazil a little more. Hey, can you hand me a broom handle? Because I can't reach that far. Yeah, I'm just saying it's definitely a reach. All right, now let's move on. Just again, this is some of the headlines happening. By the way, thanks to Jimmy Das Hotep for tweeting out the show. Greatly appreciated. Please, everybody, keep doing that. And if you want to tag me, you can, or if you don't have to, I'll find it eventually. It really helps the show to let people know that we are live. All right, next up, this is interesting. In the Washington Post, somebody put this article out, and I'm just after. A very long investigation that cost about $40 million, just with an M, not with a B, but still $40 million, and James Comey and the gang trying to figure out what happened in the 2016 election. Oh, this report comes out from the Washington Post. A new study finds Russian trolls on Twitter had little influence over voters in Trump's 2016 election victory. Oh my gosh. It's clown world. As if we didn't know that the Facebook ads with, wasn't it Jesus arm wrestling somebody and like Jesus arm wrestling the devil or whatever? The ads that got almost no interaction whatsoever. Thank you. Oh, I got you, reaction. I saw that pop up there. That got almost no reaction whatsoever. Had little influence on voters in Trump 2016 election victory. Oh, I'm shocked. I am shocked and amazed. It's just amazing. So here's the article from the Washington Post. So I don't know who Tim Sachs is. It's the Washington Post. There are no conservatives over there. So this has got to be real, right? A study finds minimal impact from Russian influence operations on Twitter in the Trump-Clinton presidential race. Now, granted, they're not saying Facebook or Tumblr or whatever, Reddit or anything else. They're only talking about Twitter here. Russian influence operations on Twitter in the 2016 presidential election reached relatively few users, most of whom were highly partisan Republicans, and the Russian accounts had no measurable impact in changing minds or influencing voter behavior, according to a study out this morning. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. There's nothing. Duh. What shit we already knew. We've known. We knew this already. The study which the New York, in fact, I think the Twitter files mentioned that a little bit too. Thank you again, Reaction Puerto Rico, dropping a deuce in the tip jar, who's having me check my DMs, which I will do in just a moment. Study in New York for social media and politics helmed explores the limits of what Russian disinformation and misinformation was able to achieve on one major social media platform in the 2016 elections. Now, we saw this, if you've been paying attention to the Twitter files, how the FBI was trying to push Twitter into finding these Russian trolls and flagging people and trying to get them to take down accounts. They gave them like 2,400 accounts to look at, or 2,700 accounts like that. No, it was like 20, I don't know, a shit ton of accounts to look at. And Twitter only found, I think they found 27 that actually had some relevance to Russia. And even those accounts averaged about 15 followers and almost no engagement whatsoever. So now, this study from the New York University Center of Social Media now finds out, there was little, explores the limits of what disinformation and misinformation was able to achieve in one major social media platform. Well, they knew that already, but the FBI was certainly trying to push it. So anyway, this Josh Tucker says, my personal sense coming out of this is that this got way overhyped. Did it now? Did it get way overhyped? No shit. It got way overhyped. One of the report's authors, who is also the co-director of the New York University Center, told me about the meaninglessness of the Russian tweets. Now we're looking back at data. Now we're looking back at, what year is this? This is it's 2023. And you didn't look at the data back in, say, November or December or January or February or any time the entire 2020 or 2021. You could have found this out in 2021, but you jackasses. But you know what? You had a what's it called? You had a narrative. That's the word. You had a narrative that you needed to push. And so you didn't really bother looking at this, even though most of us knew this back in 2020, 2021, 2022, and now in 2023. This is like, it's like I need a big old duh on my soundboard, because that's exactly what it is. Good morning, Tex AG 007. So the study didn't go as far as to say that. Let's see. And then we have this data to show we can't find any relationship between what being exposed to these tweets and people's change in attitudes, because they barely had any engagement. You jackasses. But this is the Washington Post, because they got to have their little caveat here. But the study doesn't go so far to say that Russia had no influence on people who voted for Donald Trump. Fuck you. Oh, fuck you, fuck you. Fuck you, fuck you. Fuck you. That's my favorite song of all times ever. Anyway, so you can read the rest if you want. It's hilarious to me. All right, let's move on. Now, remember, they are going to be hiring 87,000 new employees at the IRS. Now, the new Republican Congress, their first order of business is to have that portion of whatever that bill that got that god-awful number of new employees removed. But now, some people say, they're hiring 87,000 new agents so they can do audits and this and that. And so, a lot of people are trying to say, well, this is, I forgot. I'll get back to this. A lot of people are saying, they're not just getting new agents. They just have a backlog of business. They're not doing all their stuff, blah, 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 blah. And some are saying, so they can spend more time, taxing the rich, auditing the rich, taking the more money from the rich. Well, there is there's another study that we got to talk about where apparently poor people are 5 times more likely than average earners to be audited by the Biden IRS. Just 1% of those making $1 million per year of an income faced a regular audit. This is a study by somebody. Oh, Syracuse University. Poor people face a significantly higher chance in 2022 of being audited by President Joe Biden's IRS than both rich and middle-class earners, according to a Syracuse University study. In fact, no group faced as much scrutiny from the IRS as those who made below $25,000 a year, the University Data Gathering Center found. Among families that benefit from the Earned Income Credit, a rebate on income and payroll taxes made available to the nation's poorest families, 1.27% were audited. The IRS in 2022 audited just 0.19% of the vast majority of taxpayers. So wait a minute. So they're like 6 times, over 6 times more likely to get audited if you made under $25,000 than any other tax bracket? Holy shit. Let's see, meaning the poorest families release, 550%. Well, that sounds about right. What did I say, 6 times? That's close. 550% more likely to have the IRS knock on their door than the average filer. Well, good thing they're getting, look, maybe it's because they're getting money back for whatever. They get the earned income tax credit where they get a lot of people who don't hardly make any money get money back for the government that they don't even pay in. But, I kind of get it, but still, they said if I voted for Donald Trump, the poor would get shafted. Well, they were right. Anyway, if you want to read the rest of that, it tells a little bit more about the study there. Also in the headlines today, what's the next one here? Oh, Joe Biden made an admission. Good morning, Septus Wolf. Good morning. Tax evasion should be criminalized. I should be able to refuse to pay taxes to protest how the government. I should be able to refuse to pay taxes to protest how the government's spending tax dollars. Well, there you go. Poor people make way more mistakes in taxes than rich people who pay a professional do them. That's probably true too. Although most poor people take standard deductions. They don't. Most poor people don't itemize. So I don't even know how you're going to audit. Well, I suppose there's people. Here's what they're doing. Okay, there's a lot of people who may be poor on paper, but perhaps have certain types of cash businesses that they can kind of fudge. They don't they fudge where their money comes from. And so I'm certain the IRS, does a lot of that. For example, there's a lot of people who are self-employed who write off a lot of shit. So it shows that they really don't make any money. And so they kind of can shoot the tax system a little bit. But on paper, they're the poor people who, the new 87,000 IRS agents aren't supposed to be going after because Joe Biden wants to tax the rich. When in reality, you tax people who have problems on their tax returns and things that look shady. So who knows? Who knows how that works? All right, let me keep going here because I don't want to run out of time. Joe Biden made an interesting admission over the weekend. Actually, it wasn't the week. It was last week, but I didn't talk about it yet. So here it is. Apparently, Biden is admitting that axing the Keystone XL pipeline cost thousands of jobs and billions of dollars in lost revenue. If I were, what's that guy's name? Paul Joseph Watson? Right now I'd be saying, imagine my shock. Imagine my shock. The Biden administration has released a report acknowledging that its decision to end the federal permit process for the Keystone XL pipeline, effectively halting the project, resulted in the loss of tens of thousands of jobs and billions of dollars in lost revenue for the country as a whole. The report, mandated by Congress and finalized by the Department of Energy in December 2022, estimated that the Keystone XL project would have created between, now get this, 16,149, which is a very pinpointed, accurate number, and 59,000 jobs during its construction, and had a positive economic impact of between $3.4 billion with a B and $9.6 billion with a B. Montana GOP Senator Steve Daines said the Biden administration had finally owned up to what we've known all along, and that is that killing the peace. Oh my God, I can't even talk. I feel like John Fetterman right now. That killing the Keystone XL pipeline costs good-paying jobs. Duh. Who didn't know that? Who didn't know that before Joe Biden did that? Who knew? Who'd have thunk it? So anyway, this is the area of duh headlines. Let's see what else we got. We got this one. Oh, and finally, just in the preamble headlines. This is CNN. There's a new museum being opened in Miami, Florida. You know, the lovely, beautiful, warm, tropical city of Miami. New museum, CNN reports, set to open this spring. The Miami outpost of New York's popular Museum of Sex will house everything from historical sex toys to erotic art. Now, I just can't tell you how excited I am to hear about the Museum of Sex. Combining the profound and the playful, the Museum of Sex has become one of New York City's top-rated attractions on TripAdvisor since it opened in Manhattan in 2002. Now the museum is coming to Florida, where the new outpost will house everything from sexy robots to an exhibition on the history of sexual health products. Set to open this spring, the institution will occupy a vast 32,000 square foot converted warehouse in Miami's Alapata neighborhood, which is home to a growing number of art and design venues. Now, I just gotta wonder, what the hell are these? Anybody? Oh my God. This is a selection of historic vibrators from the Museum of Sex's 20,000 item collection of artworks and attractions, or artifacts, excuse me. Okay, yes, historical sex toys, petrified bananas. Okay, that's good morning, Asian Research Director Ann Maddie's in the house. Nice to see you. And Maniac Man, what's up? Let's see, what the bloody hell is that? The museum's executive director and founder, Dan Gluck, said in a statement that the inaugural program embodies our ambitions to be a thought-provoking forum about sex and sexuality. Set across 3 large gallery spaces, the opening exhibitions include a solo presentation by Hajime Sorayama, who has previously collaborated with Dior, Men, and Grammy Award-winning singer The Weeknd. The show features 4 of the Japanese artist's famous sexy robot sculptures, each standing over 9 feet tall, as well as 20 of his retro futuristic erotic paintings. So there you go. We got sexy robots, we got sex toys, we got, look at this, a man should be a man, a vacuum massager. Oh my God. I'm going to stop scrolling on this particular article. Anyway, so if you're in Miami, check out the new Museum of Sex. All right. Shall we get into the main topic of the day? Because there was an article that I saw over the weekend where I just said, this is some fodder for a Monday morning heavy metal show. Okay. So we know the very terrifying event that happened in the Bills-Bengals games, which I don't think Scientific American knows much about football. But anyway, at the Bills-Bengals game when Damar Hamlin collapsed after a hit after a tackle, right? And there's obviously been speculations on what it could have been. It could have been whatever that thing is when you get hit in the chest, like it happens to you in baseball or hockey, that causes people to have a heart attack. Anyway, he had a cardiac arrest on the field, fell down. The entire, roster of both teams were super concerned. They didn't even finish the game. They moved on. But apparently Damar Hamlin is doing okay. He's in stable condition. He woke up a few days later and after they had him intubated and all that. And the first thing they did when they stopped his intubation is first thing he asked is who won the game, which the game was never finished. But there's an article in Scientific American about this event. Now, when I saw that there might be an article in Scientific American, I thought maybe it'd be an article about, how, how it could have been, there could have been several possibilities of why this happened. Anyone know the name of that thing when someone gets hit? It usually happens to young players between like 8 and 18. Like they'll get hit in the chest and then their heart will stop, right? But that's very rare, right? It's extremely rare. And it usually happens to young players. It doesn't usually happen to older players. Sometimes older athletes die of heart attacks for other reasons, but not that particular thing. Anyway, so whatever happened to that game, they never finished it. They didn't include it in the playoff picture. I think the league just said, you know what? I think based on records, it wouldn't have made a difference for the Bills because I don't know what it did for the Bengals, but they just called it a game. So anyway, hello Bishop, what's up? So anyway, this article in Scientific. Now wait for it, okay? You may have already seen this, but I'm going to show you this anyway. T-Ball, what's up? But he's 24, and that happens to 15-year-olds more often. Yeah, in fact, this might be the first case of someone of his age. It usually happens to kids between 8 and 18. Commotio cordis. Thank you, Avocados Diabli. This would be not only rare, but extremely rare, especially for a full-grown male athlete. Anyway, but that's not what the article's about. That is not what the article's about. I thought, I said, there's an article in Scientific American about Damar Hamlin's collapse. And I thought it'd be an article about, the different possibilities. This is Scientific American, right? It'd have some science base to it, right? Oh, no. You've already seen the headline because I put it in the thumbnail. Damar Hamlin's collapse highlights the violence black men experience in football. That dude, Old Dominion sophomore, collapsed on the court the day after Hamlin. I know. Also, good morning, Ebony. How you doing? Good morning, the dude, O2, T-Ball, Bishop. Welcome to the show. Yeah, and in fact, this happened to somebody yesterday too. A girl playing intramural flag football collapsed. But anyway, but I want to read this nonsense, okay? And I want to address this because the reason the title of the stream today is Oppression Obsession is because we have a really weird thing going on in this country right now. And I think a lot of it's just for money and clicks in a way where everything has to be some sort of oppression. So let me go through this article and I'm going to laugh at it mostly and ridicule it mostly, but then I'm going to show you some other related reactions to it. So let's go through this. The terrifying, ordinary nature of football's violence disproportionately affects black men. Excuse me, I need a moment. Okay, I'm good. Let me go back to this. Let me just, for that one line that I can't even get through one line without saying something. The terrifying ordinary nature of football's violence disproportionately affects football players, not black men. Okay? There are so few people who play professional football relative to the rest of the population. And even if you go down to college level, it's a rare. Of all the people who start playing football once they're a child, less than 1% make it to college, and about 1% of those make it to the professional ranks. That's in pretty much all around professional sports. This game that is entertainment to the masses, but disproportionately affects black men. Now, this is going to give you an idea of what's happening at Scientific American right now, but let's go through it. Millions of people watched as Damar Hamlin, a 24-year-old player in the National Football League, executed a seemingly routine tackle during a highly anticipated Monday Night Football game. Immediately after, Hamlin rose to his feet and then collapsed. Players from his teams, the Buffalo Bills, and the opposing team, the Cincinnati Bengals, created a tight huddle around him on the field as medical personnel tried to revive him. No, they did not do a huddle around him. They stayed back like they were supposed to. Unless he means a few, very few. We learned the next day that Hamlin suffered a cardiac arrest. His heart had suddenly stopped working. The scene was horrific for both its regularity and exceptionality. Now, that's a weird sentence because the scene is not a regularity. It's rare and extremely rare for this particular type of incident. But the scariest part of this is that the hit was in fact not scary. It looked terrifically ordinary. Okay, that's what she meant by regularity. The ordinary, oh my God, is this a word? The ordinariness, is that a word? Is that really a word? Ordinariness of men running into each other at full speed represents a normalized, even rationalized violence that is routine in this American game. Yes, it's definitely a part of the game. That's football. Okay? Now, this ordinary violence has always riddled the sport, and it affects all players. Oh, well, she got that part right. But, here we go. But, black players are disproportionately affected, while black men are severely underrepresented in positions of power across football organizations such as coaching and management. They are overrepresented on the gridiron. Non-white players account for 70% of the NFL. Nearly half of all Division I college football players are black. Further, through a process called racial stacking, coaches racially segregate athletes by playing position. What? What are you? I can't do this. This person knows nothing about football. These demographic discrepancies place black athletes at higher risk during play. Oh, this is written by someone named Tracy Canada. I think she's a PhD in something like bullshit. As a cultural anthropologist, I've spent the last decade learning how black college football players navigate the exploitation, racism, and anti-blackness that are fundamental to its current system. You mean they're not there because they're the best in their positions? Please do tell. Hello, LA Prepper. And I know it's not new to highlight the inherent violence of American football. This sport requires exceptional athletes. I wonder if any of these black players are exceptional athletes. I wonder how they got to where they are, who are otherwise ordinary men. To perform extraordinary feats on the field, we liken these men to gladiators and warriors. The leagues, organizations, teams, coaches, spectators, and fans who benefit from their performance expect them to tough it out when they get hurt and applaud them when they play through injuries. Well, sometimes. Although, I think there are... Oh, my God. Good Lord. Football is a spectacle where excessive violence is mundane because hits that cause injuries are a constant occurrence, and spectators are desensitized to it. Really, I think spectators are not desensitized to it. I think when a player gets injured on the field, if you've ever been in the stands of a football game and listened to the crowd, they're not desensitized to it. They worry about the player who's hurt and injured on the field, always. And so I don't know how they are desensitized to it. Consumers of the sport assume players will withstand any bodily affront. No, that's why when there's a big hit, you always worry about the player. Even if no one gets hurt in a huge, like there's a huge collision in football, right? Every time you go, oh man, I hope that's got to hurt. I hope they're okay. And then they get up and they're like, just keep playing because it really didn't hurt them. But so I don't know what this person what means here. So they're shocked when a player's physical limits are exceeded, often on very public stages. People with a vested interest in professional football rationalize excessive violence. You mean the normal gameplay, which excessive violence? I know. Okay, someone who doesn't play football again. In this structured space, as well as ones that encompass college, high school, and Pee Wee plays, all because they assume that rules, equipment, and regulations exist to prevent death. Well, it's done pretty well so far, seeing as in the entire history of the NFL, only one player has died while playing the game. Now, that player, and then they find out that player had a heart condition that nobody knew about. So, now there have certainly been a few in probably in college, but again, mostly these late ones are heart condition things. And I'm sure that let's just say that that's very rare. I'm just going to say it. While this form of entertainment has been normalized, Hamlin's injury demonstrates that ordinary violence has potentially deadly consequences and highlights how black men's athletic labor sustains this brutal system. Now, it's funny to me. Let me just stop for a second, because whenever you get one of these black people most affected or black people disproportionately affected, wouldn't the idea that the opportunity to entertain people as a part of an NFL team can be extremely, extremely lucrative? Wouldn't that also disproportionately affect black men? These high-salaried, very prestigious positions in a professional athletic endeavor that can make you a shit ton of money. So there certainly is a balance between the risk and the reward, and really heavily weighted on the reward end of the game. However, certainly there are players who don't understand how to manage money and things like that and don't last in the game very long, especially in football, because I think the average player only lasts 4 years in the NFL, and I think all players need to understand that. At least I think that's is that right? 4 years? I think it's 4 years is the average player who makes it into the NFL. It might be longer than that. I'm thinking maybe the NBA. But anyway, they don't last that long. Okay, so what the NFL and a lot of the sports leagues are beginning to do is bring in financial advisors so that when these players go into the league, understand that, hey, this could be a short-lived term of relatively high income for you, so you need to learn how to manage a lot of things in your life before you start going out and buying a bunch of cars and shit. Anyway, but that disproportionately affects black men too. The high salary and high profile and high prestige of being an NFL football player. That disproportionately affects black men. Now, if you think about it, though, remember how few people even make it to the NFL in the first place. It is a tiny, tiny, tiny percentage of the entire population of the country or the world or whatever you want to do. So these are obviously the very, 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 very best of the best. And interesting. The very best of the best includes a disproportionate amount of black men. So just, sometimes you got to look at the cup as half full, but clearly this person is looking at the cup almost empty. Thank you, Maddie, by the way, for sponsoring the show. Thank you very much. Dropping a 5 spot in the tip jar says, hello. I have never seen a wide receiver or free safety have multiple concussions and are forced into retirement so they don't sustain permanent damage. Quarterbacks, anyone? Aren't there more white quarterbacks than black or ethnic ones? Yeah. Yeah, it's the, I wonder what is the position that has the most injuries. Thank you, Maddie, by the way. Thank you again. So anyway, but this is like, this article is trying to make victims out of people who choose a profession that is clearly a dangerous profession. You know, I bet you if you go and look at people who work on electrical lines, they probably have a lot of injuries too, or high-risk jobs. There's a lot of high-risk jobs. You know what else? You know, high-risk jobs are disproportionately held by men. And writing stupid articles like this are usually... I was going to say, usually white women, but I think this woman's black. But anyway, the editor of Scientific American's a white woman, and wait till you hear about this. Anyway, on these playing fields, the ones that sociologist Billy Hawkins would argue are never theoretically far from plantation fields. Oh, no. No! This is the argument that these professional athletes are like slaves. Financial stakeholders value black bodies for their productive potential and physical prowess. You know what else you know what? Not just black bodies. Lord say, I never heard of any injuries from the LFL. Guess women are tougher than men. The lingerie football league. Oh, good Lord. Because no one pays attention to the lingerie football league unless you're lonely on a Saturday night. Okay, let me go back to this. On these playing fields, one sociologist would argue are never theoretically far from plantation fields. Financial stakeholders value black bodies for their productive potential and physical prowess. Well, you know, there's a lot of bodies out there, and it's not just the black bodies, but, you know, it's the people who work their ass off to be able to play in this highly lucrative and high-paying job that has high risk. High risk, high reward. And high specialization, anyway. The league encourages and facilitates rigorous training and discipline so players can execute seemingly impossible corporeal demands, all in the service of entertainment, money-making, and insatiable fandom. In the words of sociologist and activist Harry Edwards, now if you're not familiar with Harry Edwards is a former college athlete who has never stopped complaining about the fact that he didn't make it big in sports, but he got some big ass degrees and decided to shit on everything that has to do with college sports. He says, like a piece of equipment, the black athlete is used. Really? Because there's a lot of white guys too who are also used, I guess, in that system. Like some of these, especially the guys, you know who is really used? The guys on the offensive line. They get hardly any recognition, and they do a lot of work. Now and there's a lot of white and black guys and whatever, all different races and offensive lines. But anyway. But the black ones are oppressed. See, the white guys who play the game, they're not oppressed. They're not like one step away from the plantation. They're not used. Their bodies are not, their white bodies are not used. While I am not aware of and this is the best part of this article. This is the very, very, very chef's kiss of this article. Listen to this line. The writer says, while I am not aware of research that compares the rate of injury between black and white football players, heat strokes, ACL, labrum tears, ankle sprains, bone breaks, and concussions are just a few of the consequences on how these bodies are used. So this is a very unscientific opinion piece. Real quick. Ty Alexander, thank you for dropping a bullet in the tip jar. It says, Tyler says, it's just easier for me to list all the things that don't oppress me or are racist according to the woke. That as far as I got. Thank you. These cunts are just obsessed with races. Yes, they are. You are spot on, sir. Thank you, Tyler Alexander. The NFL gains both culturally and financially from black athletic performance. Hello, Bubba, by the way. Fat Mexican here. Should we be asking for reparations from all black athletes over 400 years of free sports training? I need to see that article. God damn. Damn it, Bubba. That's oh my God. What the heck? Oh, damn. Holy shit. That was good. Well, it's bad. It's very bad, Bubba. But that was okay. You got me. Let's see. Okay, let me start. The NFL gains both culturally and financially from black athletic performance. It is the most popular sports league in the United States and the most valuable sports league in the world. It is also a league that has exploited its black players for decades. Stop it. No. If it doesn't single out black athletes for exploitation. Good God, the ones who make it to the league are the ones who are the most talented in the positions they need to fill teams with. You don't just get to be on an NFL team. They don't just run down to the nearest Waffle House and start pulling out black people to make them their football slaves. These people work their asses off to be able to be in this entertainment league where they could be, instead of going to getting learning to code and working for some company coding for, point of sale systems, these guys decided that they were going to make themselves the very best they could be and made it into a league where they make hundreds of thousands of dollars every year. Some $1 million a game, depending on which position they're playing. League officials admitted to using race norming, an assumption that black players have a lower baseline cognitive function than white players and suffer less from concussion. In settlements for concussion-related injuries, former head coach Brian Flores has sued the league for racial... Okay, now they're going to go talk about Brian Flores, who sued the league for racial discrimination in hiring. Now... if you don't know the Brian Flores story, I think anyone know the status of that lawsuit? I thought it got thrown out. So what happens is that the NFL now has a requirement when they try to, is kind of an affirmative action requirement when they're going to seek new head coaches for certain teams, that they must include at least one black candidate for every new head coaching job. So this Brian Flores, who was at one time a head coach but didn't do very well, his name keeps popping up in these coaching searches, because he's one of the black coaches that had been a coach. But you know what happens when you do the affirmative action? You force people to have to interview a black coach for certain positions. They'll interview some guy just so they can meet the requirement, not because they want him as a head coach. And so this guy sued because they kept bringing him in for interviews for head coaches, but they weren't hiring him because they didn't really want him. In fact, one of the positions, I think he got beaten out by another black head coach. So it's like, but he sued the league because, well, it's racial discrimination that they're not hiring him to be a head coach. Maybe you suck as a head coach, Brian Flores. Did you think about that, bitch? Anyway, the NFL's success and popularity should never be disentangled from its persistent anti-black practices. Yes, the NFL is notoriously anti-black, and that's why all of these black players continue to play for the NFL, because they are notoriously anti-black. Despite dismissive arguments of critics that high salaries are payment enough for the injuries that NFL players will likely experience. I'm sorry, likely? I'm curious how many people, I'm sure there's a lot of injuries in the NFL, but likely experience. Athletes at other levels don't have this luxury. Public health scholar Kathleen Bakshinsha, I can't see her name, so that's how I pronounce it, Bakshinsha, Details the risks that have always existed in youth tackle football. Professional play cannot be disconnected from the college play, since this is where the professional talent is cultivated. The college system thrives on unpaid athletes' labor. Excuse me. It is not unpaid labor, unless they're playing Division III football. You know, college football players, some of them just play because they want to play football. For example, there's a healthy Division III college level football in the United States of America colleges, and they don't even get paid. They don't even get scholarships. They just play because they want to play football, because they like playing the game. In Division II, they get partial scholarships, not even full scholarships sometimes. Some get full scholarships, but not a whole lot. But it's because, you know what, they want to go and play college football. It's a choice. They might get a scholarship. It might be a way to pay for school, right? And in the higher leagues, the Division I schools where they do have scholarships, guess what? Those college football players are paid. You know how they're paid? They're paid with scholarships, room and board. They get to eat. They get a place to stay. It's amazing. They get paid. And in fact, now, well, I think they have that new role where that people can make money off their own likeness and shit like that. There's a college gymnast. I think she makes like $11 million a year just on like Instagram and TikTok and whatever. And she has endorsement deals and stuff. I had never heard of this till I read this article. Anyway, not this article, but a different article about it. Anyway, okay, let me get back to this. The college system thrives on unpaid athletes' labor through a power dynamic that sociologist Eric Hatton. Now, again, I'm sure that every single one of these references that this person makes are also wokies who, are trying to say that, there's a racist element to football, which, look, there might be slightly, but you know what? Part of it is that the racism is that a lot of black athletes are really good athletes and they want them to play on their teams. So, I guess that's racism, or something. I don't know what the hell that is. That's not racist. That's just, well, it's merit, but never mind. It's terms it's status coercion, as coaches manipulate and exploit players to work to extract value that ultimately leads to revenue for almost every entity involved except the players themselves. College players suffer the same injuries as professionals, some of which end careers before they even begin. Yet, there is often little support to help players imagine themselves outside of their athletic identities and cultivate alternative careers. Well, you're in college, you might want to earn that degree while you're there. That's what I say. If you're not going to hit the books before and after practice, then maybe you made a bad choice. I don't know how to explain it to you. The most recent and exaggerated example occurred in fall 2020 during the first season of play during COVID-19 pandemic. Beginning March 2020, there were almost no students on campus. Classes shifted to virtual formats, and social distancing became common practice. However, teams and conferences decided to play football play would continue. Players in all 5 major Division I conferences risked their health with an unpredictable and sometimes deadly virus to play a high-contact sport in almost empty stadiums to satisfy their universities, as well as television fans and broadcasters who capitalize off their viewership. If those players hadn't taken the field, athletic departments could have lost at least $4.1 billion in revenue. You know what that $4.1 billion revenue in football and most of major college football pays for? It pays for the scholarships of all the athletes in the entire athletic department, because football is the biggest revenue builder. And guess what? Anyone heard of any football players or college football players or college athletes that died of COVID during the pandemic? I'm sure you would have heard it up, down, left, right, and everywhere if it had happened. Don't think it happened. But I might be wrong. It could have happened. There's hundreds of thousands of people playing college football at all 3 division levels. And well, there's actually 5 division levels, because there's NAIA Division 1 and 2 also. So anyway, I'm just curious. Anyone heard of one? I haven't. In a way, that is reminiscent of Black feminist scholar Hortense Spiller's theorization of flesh. These situations demonstrate how organizations, administrators, and fans dismiss each player's personhood. Yes, they are not real humans. They are just a cog in the machine. Strip them of their humanity and reduce them to mere bodies. No football athlete deserves this treatment. Do they do it do they have a choice to do it, or do they not? Are they forced? Are they forced to do this stuff? Or do they say, yeah, I'm going to do it? Because I'm sure some players said, you know what, I'm not really willing to risk it. I'm going to sit out during COVID and, I may give up my scholarship and go do something, may go work at the Ford plant or something. It's not like you are forced to do it. Is there, again, risk, reward. Risk, reward. They should not be expected to play after enduring, experiencing, or witnessing bodily traumas. Well, they usually get some time off if they actually have a bodily trauma that makes it that they can't play. And if they choose, whatever. They're not forced to. Further, to dismiss the almost certain breaking down of their bodies as just part of the game is a process of objectification and commodification that prioritizes the player over the person in a way that black feminist scholar Bell Hooks says calls to mind the history of slavery and the plantation economy. The anti-blackness of the system is inescapable. This fucking clown world. Despite the severity of Hamlin's injury, the current NFL season will continue. Did you expect them to cancel the season over his heart attack? Is that what you expected? Did you expect them to cancel the season? The game between the Bills and the Bengals has officially been canceled. They did cancel that game. That's the first time ever that they canceled a game because of an injury. And the playoffs will be modified, but predictably the Super Bowl in February will be followed by the scouting combine in March, the draft in April, and team training camps during the summer, all to prepare for the season to begin again in the fall. But we can't forget that without the players themselves, the game cannot persist. You know what? If some players decide they don't want to play, I'm sure they'll find some who are willing to take the risk for the reward. Again, risk, reward. But we can't forget, the elaborate infrastructure of the entire system relies upon their continued participation. They're not forced to. Are they forced to participate? Does somebody come up, like there's the mob, okay? The mob guys come up with a gun and say, hey, yo, you, come here. You're going to play that fucking football game or I'm going to shoot you in the fucking head. Does anyone? Of course, that's probably a possibility, actually. I don't know how the mob works, but anyway, at least from the surface, we don't see that shit. If we expect these quotidian, quotidian gladiator, what the fuck's a quotidian? Hang on a second. I've never heard this word. We're looking up quotidian. They're using words that I ain't never heard of. Quotidian. Let's find this is someone who got out of the thesaurus. Oh, quotidian, everyday, commonplace, recurring daily, used especially of attacks of malaria. Good Lord. Okay, quotidian. That's a new one. These quotidian gladiators, to return to the field, structural shifts must occur so they are actually cared for in a way that respects their humanity as men who just happen to play the game of football exceptionally well. Well, wasn't that special? Wasn't that special? So, there's been some reaction to this, needless to say, but first I want to show, I forgot to do this. I'm sorry, Reaction, I never looked at your message here. Hang on a second here. What the hell is this? Okay, I will, I'll check, this is some information on Brazil. I'll come back to that in a second. Right after this. So some of the reactions to this, first of all, the editor-in-chief at Scientific, now let me remind you, as I read this article, did anyone remember the fact that this article was published in Scientific American? Now, if you're not familiar with Scientific American, when I was a kid, at least, Scientific American was a science journal that pretty much talked about actual science and had science sciencey things in every article to promote science. And I didn't really see a whole lot of sciencey things in that article, although she did reference a few people who talk about sports a lot. But was there any studies or science in that article that you remember? Yes or no? Just put a yes or no. If you heard of sciencey things in that article, drop a yes in the chat. And if you did not hear sciencey things in that article, drop a no. Anyway, the editor of Scientific American is a little bit miffed right now, because this article being published, now she points, when she posted this article on Twitter, she's one of the people who posted it, several other people did, but this is the editor, let's see, what's her name? Lori Helmuth, editor-in-chief of Scientific American. By the way, don't harass her, this is a fact. Editor-in-chief of Scientific American. Now, it's funny because she also posted her Mastodon link, but also she's past president of Science Writers, which I don't know what that is. But now, here's the part that maybe makes some of what I'm about to talk about make sense. She's a former writer at the Washington Post, National Geographic, okay, Slate. So Washington Post and Slate, and then Smithsonian and News from Science. But Washington Post and Slate. Now, because I read this article and I kind of was going through it and I was reading it and I was like, wait a minute. This sounds more like something you'd read in the Daily Beast, not in Scientific American, right? And so as I'm reading this, and so here's how she presented it. She put the line, to dismiss the almost certain breaking down of their bodies as a part of the game is a process of objectification and commodification. The anti-blackness of the system is inescapable. Important analysis of football from Tracy Canada on Scientific American. And so people were just trashing her in the comments once they read this article. And then she writes, and the replies to any tweet about systemic racism prove the existence of systemic racism. And the replies to any tweet about systemic racism prove the existence of systemic racism. Now, that's what's known as a Kafka trap, which I'll explain in a second, but not very scientific. So people are just trashing this article. Much scientific. Even Tony Dungy read this. Tony Dungy, as a black man and former NFL player, I can say this article is absolutely ridiculous. Thank you, Tony Dungy, former Vikings and former Colts coach, a legendary player in his own right. If you go through the replies, it basically gets trashed. But I wanted to bring up a couple of different particular reactions that are very, very important here. By the way, thank you, Jimmy Das Hotep, for sponsoring the show. Dropping another Hamilton in the tip jar, who says, how pissed would the rest of the league be losing out on money from an injury, maybe not even caused by the game, maybe caused by something forced on them to play? Could that be the Fauci juice? I don't know. That could be. Thank you, Jimmy Das Hotep. So here's one of them. Now, this is something known as the rabbit hole, a newer, but also very, very well written Twitter handle. So it says, talking to Miss Helmuth, you're the editor-in-chief for Scientific American, which was once a scientific publication, and are allowing people to abuse the platform as a political mouthpiece. We'll get to that in a second. Scientific America is now part of the racial industrial complex, thanks to your failed leadership. Not to mention the poor logic where Lori Helmuth thinks a reply to a tweet about systemic racism proves its existence. Theories, including those regarding systemic racism, are supposed to be falsifiable. Otherwise, they aren't scientific, making them inappropriate for Scientific American. And then she goes into why the logic is fallacious. I'll come to that. I have that in a different thing here. But under this person, Lori Helmuth, Scientific American has become a bit of a social justice venue. And here's a couple examples of this. So here under Lori Helmuth, here's one Scientific American Special Collector's Edition Science for social justice. Research shows the sources and costs of bias and how to make a more equitable world. Equitable. Isn't that sounds like equity. What happens when you hear the word equity? Run. And then and then inside, the underpinnings of injustice, health threats of inequity, power imbalances that harm the environment, protecting voting rights, better economic opportunities for women, empowering community resilience. This is not a science magazine. This is a SJW woke ass stupid shit freaking magazine. What the hell? Now, here's another example. Scientific American, the science of overcoming racism. What research shows and experts say about creating a more just and equitable run world. Look, you don't make an equitable world. Equity is not the solution. Equality equality of opportunity is the solution, and people becoming the best they can be, encouraging people to be the best they can be, not telling them that they're automatically downtrodden, oppressed because of the color of their skin, which is what you're doing here. Okay? You it pisses me off. And then also, here's another one. Then Scientific American, how social justice movement succeed. Black Lives Matter take up the baton of the civil rights movement. Well, sort of. Not really. They took up a lot of dollars in real estate, but anyway. So that's fascinating. I got one more, but let me go to the well here. Thank you, Cryptic, for sponsoring the show, dropping a big bullet in the tip jar. Cryptic says, I went to the bar to have a few drinks. The bartender asked me, what do you have? I said, surprise me. He showed me a naked picture of my wife. Oh, God. Thank you, Cryptic. I hit the wrong button. Good God. Yes, that would be very surprising. Now, here's, for example, oh, wait, where's the one? Not that one. This one. Here's under Lori Helmuth, what's happened at Scientific American. This is the, I hate to say it, but the woke white women syndrome. Here's Scientific American's homepage today with social justice mentioned, and from the Wayback Machine on March 10, 2020, where it was not mentioned once. Laura Helmuth was appointed editor on March 11, 2020. So here's Scientific American now. This is amazing. This is a science magazine. Scientific American covers the most important and exciting research, ideas, and knowledge in science, health, technology, the environment, and society. It is committed to sharing trustworthy knowledge, enhancing our understanding of the world, and advancing social justice. There's no such thing as social justice. Social justice, there's only such thing as individual justice. You cannot bring justice to groups or demographics. It's basically an oxymoron. In order to do that for groups and demographics, unless you mean in law. Now I can understand it, but that's not what they mean. That's not what they want. So that's what it's now. Here's what was prior to Lori Helmuth. Here's what it said. Scientific American, the longest continuously published magazine in the U.S., has been bringing its readers unique insights about the developments in science and technology for more than 170 years. In 1845, Rufus Porter founded the publication as a weekly broadsheet subtitled The Advocate of Industry and Enterprise and Journal of Mechanical and Other Improvements. That's the subtitle. A restless inventor, Porter soon turned to other ventures and, after 10 months, sold Scientific American for the sum of $800 to Orson Sax Munn and Alfred Ely Beach. In an era of rapid innovation, Scientific American founded the first branch of the U.S. Patent Agency in 1850 to provide technical help and give legal advice to inventors. A Washington, D.C. branch was added in 1859. By 1900, more than 100,000 inventions had been patented. thanks to Scientific American. So that's what Scientific American was. And now, advancing social justice. Doesn't sound very sciencey to me. Thank you, Chicago Mike, dropping a big bullet in the tip jar. Did I already say this? No, I didn't. Oh, yes, I did not. So thank you, Chicago Mike. Who says Scientific American is not blinded by science. They're blinded by something else. True. And I would say blinded by bullshit. Okay, let's see. What else do I have? Oh, and then this is someone else. The woman who turned Scientific American into a laughingstock all across the non-woke political spectrum, most recently with an article claiming that the NFL violence is racist. Heats up the laugh track with a retort, and that's, she's talking about the replies to any tweet about systemic racism prove the existence of systemic racism. So the fact that you object to my claim that violence, this is a summary of what she just said. The fact that you object to my claim that violence in the NFL is racist against black players proves that this racism exists is the same Kafkaesque maneuver D'Angelo tried with white fragility. Like, you know, Beverly D'Angelo, the writer of the book White Fragility, and she makes $30,000 every time she talks at a university talking about white fragility and how racist she is along with all other white people. So an interesting factoid about Scientific American and Lori Helmuth's tenure. In September 2020, the Scientific American announced its endorsement of Senator Joe Biden for the 2020 presidential election, breaking a 175-year tradition of never having endorsed a presidential candidate. So she's made it a political and social justice publication, basically. Stan Ulch, nice to see you in the chat. I don't know if you're new, but if you are, welcome. And if you haven't been here before, I see you've already subscribed because I only let, by the way, the only reason I only have subscribers allowed to comment in the chat, all you have to do is subscribe. You don't have to wait or anything, is because I have this rash of these stupid sex troll bots that come in here and put thousands of tweets. And right now, that's the only thing that I think has stopped them from doing it. So anyway, but it says, let's see, Stan says, all the science journals are corrupt. Why not Scientific American? That's the problem with science. Like anything done by man, it is corruptible. It's very corruptible. All our systems are fallible. We like to think science is infallible, but on its preface, we know that to be the opposite, just like programming, garbage in, garbage out. So true, so true. And look, you can tell, like, a lot of science is now dominated by how they get funding. So, for example, if you try to get climate science money, you can't get climate science money if you're trying to disprove some of the orthodoxy that is common now. The reason you don't hear about all the dissenters is because they can't get money from the usual sources, being the government or universities, unless they're trying to make more claims that we are in a current climate crisis. So science is very, very corruptible. You can see it also, obviously, in the science of the stupid 19, which we've been experiencing over the last couple of years. The pharmaceutical companies have had a very, very good result of getting funding and whatever, getting their shit bought. And there's been some other types of things that could have been done that maybe, just maybe, may have been effective also, but we had to suppress those so that we could have some emergency use authorization. At least that's the theory. I'm not necessarily endorsing that theory because I'm on YouTube right now. Let's move on. And then I said something about the idea of a Kafka trap. So a Kafka trap is a sophistical or rhetorical device in which any denial by an accused person serves as evidence of guilt. So her little thing here where she says, and the replies to any tweet about systemic racism prove the existence of systemic racism. No, it proves that some people have a different opinion than you, Laura. And maybe you should just fuck right off. And by the way, here's an article that Laura wrote back in 2012. This is fascinating. Dude, bank your sperm, it'll get you laid, by Laura Helmuth. Basically, she was pushing the idea that if you basically go to sperm banks and freeze it and have it saved for later and get a vasectomy, you're more likely to get laid. I just, it should get one of these, but that's just how it is. All right. So anyway, that's what that was about. Now, we'll move on. I've got to do just headlines now through the rest of the show because I really spent way too much time on that. But it's a fascinating look. I'm more and more. Anything that happens in our world right now, I'm going back to this oppression obsession thing. There's always someone who's going to say, "Oh, it affects black people more. Oh, it affects black and indigenous people of color more. Oh, it affects black trans women more." When they don't really have data to prove any of that, especially like they've been talking a lot about, for example, 29 black trans women were killed this year. Well, is that probably the average for any population in the United States or not? It's like, and it's funny because they try to make things like that saying, oh, because they were trans, somebody killed them. When a lot of times, most of those deaths are domestic violence or just regular gun violence in the hood or whatever, or by a partner or whatever. Anyway, I don't know why I went on that tangent. So, interesting article here in the Washington Examiner, speaking of which, and this is a little bit different in that it is capitalism is the way to address racial inequality. Now, the football thing, well, here's why I'm going to skip the football thing. California's Race Reparations Task Force is currently deliberating the size of financial payments to be redistributed to black state residents. The Golden State's reparation push is just the latest instance of liberals' uniform belief that the only way to overcome persistent racial economic divides is through big government. Now, this is fascinating. I didn't know if you know this, but California has this task force. They're gonna pay reparations to black people who live in California. Now, first, I'm curious, how many black people are going to move to California just to get the California reparations package? And two, why in California? Because this is supposed to be some kind of reparations for slavery, and California is going to, not that California doesn't have its own problems, but California is going to pay reparations to black people. But I'm failing to remember this because was California a slave state? Wait a minute. I'm pretty sure California didn't exist during the Civil War and after emancipation. But for some reason, California's doing this. Don't ask me why. Anyway, this effort comes on the heels of 2 years of racialized policies from congressional Democrats and the Biden administration, including a failed attempt to distribute stupid 19 aid based on race, which got struck down by the courts. In reality, the best way to close racial income and wealth gaps is by expanding economic opportunities. I said opportunities. I can't talk. I'm doing another Fetterman. Through the free market, ironically, the very same free market that liberals want to curtail, regulate, and rule over in the same name of addressing racism, is the most potent antidote to racism. Capitalism financially punishes racial prejudice. The business owner who refuses to hire and promote people on merit, no matter their race, will soon fall behind competitors who do. The entrepreneur who refuses to deal with suppliers who offer the best products at the best prices, independent of their race, will be outcompeted by those who do. And so this is, it goes on about why the tax cuts were a success and why that helped so many people. Why during the administration of the guy with the funny hair, so many black people had better lives, had more employment, had better economic opportunity, had all kinds of stuff that were not, that seems to be being pushed to the side by the current guy with the funny brain. So just thought I'd bring that up. All right, let's get through the headlines and we're going to get out of here because I am out of time. So, President Biden finally made it to the border. Do you know this? So you saw this trip to the border over the weekend, right? Did you know that not just as president, but this is the first time Joe Biden has ever been to the border in the United States of America, been down to South Texas, down there in the border? Isn't that funny? That's a weird thing. Oh, dude, I'm half Irish too. I'm black on one. I'm black and I'm half Irish. So I should get double reparations, right? Real quick. Thank you, Cryptic, dropping another link and in the tip jar. Greatly appreciated, sir. Cryptic says, what about all the Asians who died building the railroads? They weren't even given citizenship for children born in California. Well, this is California. They are just, it's because it's okay to be racist against Asians. And since Asians can already get into a lot of the universities of their choices, they just say fuck you to the Asians. And that's what California is. I do not say fuck you to the Asians, but that's because I have 2 Asian sisters. Well, that's not because why, but it's a factor. Anyway, Biden finally traveled to the U.S.-Mexican border amid record-breaking illegal immigrant encounters. Now, there's a couple stories about this, but there's one that you're not hearing a lot of play except in conservative media. He did travel to, he traveled to the U.S. border for the first time, and he gave a speech and all this shit. But here's the thing I want to highlight about this. If you want to read about it, these articles will be there. Here's what I want to highlight about Joe Biden's trip to the border. One, the El Paso Police Border Patrol were clearing out illegal alien encampments ahead of Biden's arrival. They sanitized the sites he was going to so he could take some photo ops with some Border Patrol agents and bullshit. El Paso rushes to remove illegal immigrants in migrant camps that are crowding downtown before Biden arrives. So predictable. Now, of course, they say it's because of security. No, they don't want the photo op to be marred by one of those, what do you call it? Photobombing, homeless immigrants sitting on the street. That's what they don't want. Biden does not want America to see the chaos that he has caused on the border. It's just a photo op and a game of pretend, according to Greg Abbott. Greg Abbott ripped him to shreds, by the way, in a letter he wrote to Biden. Let's see, is this the letter? It might be in this. It might be in this article. Anyway, Biden, El Paso clears downtown of expansive immigrant crowds ahead of Biden visit. City sidewalks that transformed into makeshift homeless camps and tens of thousands of illegal immigrants were released in downtown El Paso in recent months have been cleared out ahead of Joe Biden's visit. Okay, so there's a couple articles on that. Here's one in the Daily Wire. So again, conservative media is noticing this, but if you would go on to ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, MSNBC, CNBC, or even Fox, you're not going to hear this story. Even on Fox, you won't hear the story. That they sanitized El Paso before Joe went there. Did he? Thank you, Chicago Mike, for the big bullet. I see it before it even showed up. Whoops, that's the big thing. Whoops, stop. There you go. Did Biden travel to the parking lot and look concerned? No, there's no pictures of Joe Biden crying by a fence looking at a parking lot. So, thank you, Chicago Mike. Anyway, there's articles all over. They don't want to show him the reality of things. Illegal immigrant camps in El Paso cleaned up before the Biden visit. So there's several stories in that you can read. And then let's see, what's this? So this is the best meme, though. Here we go. El Paso before Joe Biden visits and El Paso when Joe Biden visits. So that's... Oh, that's a good one. That is a good one. That's hilarious. So anyway, that's funny. Those guys do look kind of alike, don't they? They look very similar. But anyway, they cleaned up El Paso before that. Now, if you want to watch Joe Biden's speech regarding the border, he makes a couple silly gaffes in here, which is par for the course. I think he referred to Kamala Harris as President Harris at least once in this speech. And there's one point in this speech where he says, the Border Patrol has recovered or stopped 20,000 pounds of fentanyl getting across the border. They just had a 20,000 pound fentanyl seizure, right? And that's enough to kill 1,000 people. Say what? Say what? I'm pretty sure it's more than enough to kill the entire country plus maybe several other large countries. But he's like, and Kamala Harris has to stand behind him and listen. It's funny because every once in a while, he's speaking, and you see Kamala Harris trying so hard not to change her facial reaction. Like her face like completely freezes for a second because she doesn't want to either laugh or cry. I don't know which, but anyway, if you want to watch this speech, it's about 25 minutes long. I don't have time for it today. Let's see. Oh, and this is great. A previously deported illegal alien convicted child abuser is found living in a sanctuary state of New York. Probably got sent to there by a Democrat governor, because they're starting to send people to New York and Chicago too. But Chicago mayor and mayors in Chicago and New York have politely asked Democratic governors to stop busing asylum seekers to their cities. Now, interesting, he uses the word asylum seekers because most of these people wouldn't be eligible for asylum in any stretch of any international law, but, you know, that's what the Democrats like to call them. Last summer, when the surge of illegal aliens at the Texas border was overwhelming towns like El Paso, Governor Greg Abbott began to bus illegal aliens and asylum seekers from Texas border towns to Chicago and New York. After all, Abbott reasoned these two mayors were constantly bragging about how welcoming their sanctuary city policies were. So the Texas governor thought it was time those Democrats began to put their money where their mouth is. Now, of course, as expected, Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot and New York Mayor Eric Adams began to scream bloody murder. Lightfoot referred to Abbott's policy of busing illegals to Chicago and New York as inhumane. And she said Abbott was a man without any morals, humanity, or shame. Now, what's weird is there's some Democrat governors now trying to do that, right? Abbott isn't the only governor upset at Joe Biden's immigration policy, or more accurately, the lack thereof. Colorado's Democratic Governor Jared Polis has been busing asylum seekers to New York City and Chicago to relieve the strain on his state services. Now, as you might expect, that went over like a lead balloon. And on Saturday, Lightfoot and Adams sent a very, very polite letter to Polis, asking him sweetly to cease and desist. What? It's not inhumane? Hello, Lord Stanhope. I see you. We respectfully demand that you cease and desist sending migrants to New York City and Chicago, Adams and Lightfoot wrote in a letter to Polis. Since December of 2022, Chicago and New York City have received hundreds of individuals from Colorado. 5 million in El Paso come through El Paso alone. Shut the fuck up. Hundreds of individuals. Oh no. Oh, the vapors. There was recently a 25,000 in El Paso, Texas, a city, 1/8 the size of Chicago? Come on, man. Come on, man. Shut up. Anyway, they're very polite to Democratic Governor Polis. All right, I got to keep it moving here. 2 more Virginia principals admit that to withholding National Merit Awards from students. So remember those I told you the other day about the school that these, all these kids take the PSAT before they're in 9th grade, I think, and they get based on their scoring. There's the National Merit Scholarship Program, gives scholarships and commendable students awards, right? And there was a school in I think it was Fairfax that one of the Fairfax schools said, well, we're not giving these out because this is not fair to all the students. We're trying to promote equity, right? But the students who get these awards often are able to get scholarships to go to, for college. And so you're taking something away from kids who earned what they earned. Well, apparently there are 2 new schools also in that same area. Oh, this was the one, what was that? The Thomas Jefferson High School for Science and Technology in Fairfax, Virginia. They were hiding the academic achievements from students, and so these students couldn't put these on their college resumes and possibly get scholarships. Well, apparently there are 2 more schools in that same district that are doing the same shit, and so there's an article here in Legal Insurrection about it. And this is fucked up. I'm sorry to use that language, but it is. Also in education news, a New Jersey middle school teacher overdoses on fentanyl in front of the students. Oh, brutal. A middle school teacher is facing charges after overdosing on fentanyl in front of a classroom of students. Frank Thompson, 57, an art teacher at Roosevelt Intermediate School, was found unconscious and unresponsive by a school resource officer in a second-floor classroom after 9 a.m. on November 29th, according to the Westfield Police Department. Before the officer arrived, students noticed Thomas was in distress and a school nurse was treating him. The officer noticed signs that Thompson was experiencing a drug overdose and administered naloxone hydrochloride, also known as Narcan, which he carries on him. The teacher then started showing signs of improvement. Following the incident, investigators found fentanyl and other items of drug paraphernalia in the classroom closet. Authorities charged Thompson on Thursday with possession of a controlled substance, possession of drug paraphernalia, and endangering the welfare of children, according to police. So, just warn your kiddies if you're sending them to school that their teacher might OD on fentanyl. At least he didn't. Well, look, the good news is he didn't die, but they probably won't fire him because, teachers unions and shit. Let's see, what's this? Oh. So this football player was talking about what's his name, Hamlin, Damar Hamlin's injury, on Anderson Cooper's show, and the guy started talking about God, and it kind of threw Anderson for a loop. Let's see, do I have that here? I don't know if I have that one. Oh, Benjamin Watton. Here it is. Here's poor Anderson Cooper didn't know what to do.
Very sober, and it's scary.
Here, I'm going to go to it.
And it can for all of us.
You're exactly right. These times bring us face to face with our own mortality.
Watch
and we
Anderson's
all have
face.
a day to be born, and we all have a day to die. And so often in between those 2 points, we feel invincible. Whether you're a professional athlete, whether you're at the top of your profession, whether you're feeling healthy, you understand that sometimes there's a reminder that, hey, all of us have an appointment with death. But I think after that, it also makes us realize, where are we? Where do our hearts stand? If that were to be us laying on the field, or if that were to be us laying in a hospital, what would our next steps be? And so on the flip side, with such a tragic event, there is tremendous opportunity. Part of my prayers right now, Anderson, is for the players in both of those locker rooms, for the chaplains who I know very well, who are right now counseling and comforting players who saw a brother in a near-death experience and who is still fighting for his life, because the questions about what happens after this life, where will you spend eternity, as you mentioned, Anderson, are coming up for all of us, not just for the football players, but thank God that he provides an answer through his son, Jesus Christ.
Also, it makes one think of...
Okay, so he didn't want to talk about that. So anyway, let's see. I should probably run through here. Let's see. Okay, another headlines. California Chair of Reparations Task Force says black people are really owed $1 million each. Okay. Oh, in California, because let's see, the black state residents could receive more than $223,000 each in reparations for enduring economic effects of racism and slavery. Only in California. Only in California. I don't know. Look, that's a debate that I've never really gotten into. There so many things that didn't happen that were promised back in the 1800s when slavery ended. And yet, how do you reconcile taking it from other people now? Of course, the government just prints money. So sometimes you go, well, if they're just going to print money, they might as well give me some. I'm not, I have no weight on either side of that scale, of that debate. There are absolutely arguments for it. There are absolutely arguments against it. And I don't have a well thought out definitive solution. So I'm going to skip that. Virginia Dad slams Soros prosecutor for prosecuting concerned parents more harshly than murderers. John Teague says Buddha Bubaraj treated him as a political enemy after he protested at a school board meeting. So more on the guy who's got acquitted from the charges for disrupting a school board meeting. But the prosecutor in that case treated him worse than most murderers, apparently, as she treated him as a political enemy, which is that a surprise when you see what's happening with like the January 6 people, some of the January 6 people who really didn't do anything other than they were there in a space that the FBI found out they were in the space and now are putting harsh penalties on them. So no surprise, but you can check that article out. This one from the Human Events. Ashley Babbitt's mother was arrested for obstruction of the Capitol on the 2-year anniversary of January 6th. Yes, they were setting up a memorial for her daughter. And this is kind of weird because a group of them were walking across the street to place some flowers and a sign on the stairs. And the police came, and it's really interesting. As you're watching the video of this, and I don't think they have it here. You can find it on the internet. But for some reason, they singled her out and arrested her. They didn't seem to arrest any other people. And that was really weird. Yes, Tyre, I did see the where that 6-year-old shot the teacher. Terrible, terrible, terrible tragedy. I did see that. But yeah, so for some reason they seem to have only arrested her. And I don't know how that happened, how they singled her out. Because she said, according to Capitol Police, her mother was charged with obstructing roadways after she and a group of fellow demonstrators appeared on Capitol grounds without a permit and began, quote, illegally blocking traffic. Now, it's so funny because I've been watching these traffic blocking incidents for 3 or 4 years now, right? Especially after in 2020 during the George Floyd riots. And I don't recall anyone being arrested for blocking traffic. But again, this is one of the worst threats to democracy since the Civil War. So maybe there's a special cause for arresting the mother of one of the people who died on January 6th. I don't know. Did she mouth off? Not really. I mean, she argued with them a little bit but they only chose her, and she was just saying, "I'm just trying to, put out a memorial for my daughter." There's video online. You can find it. And then the other articles I have here, I may have to do later. I might actually do a short show this afternoon after I got to take Lady Boomer to the doctor today, not the hospital, but she's getting her first check since her surgery. But the articles that are left here, if you want to read them, more proof that Nancy Pelosi was more responsible for the January 6th riot than Trump. And from PJ Media. From Washington Free Beacon, Gavin Newsom blames Republicans for January 6th riots in his inaugural address. I think he's running for president. In Breitbart, Pinkerton, the Twitter files remind us that the deep state lives. In fact, I think I put a link to all the Twitter files in the tabs today. Apparently, Karine Jean-Pierre's partner, Suzanne Malveaux, is out at CNN. I think she got fired. She's one of the people who were fired, or she's announced her departure. In Washington Free Beacon, court may force Hunter Biden to disclose the buyers of his pricey artwork. Yes, the greatest money laundering adventure since Hunter Biden did something else last week. His artwork's been being sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and now apparently a court's saying that someone has to disclose the buyers of his work. I wonder if the big guy's getting 10%. In Front Page magazine, remember the hysteria over Trump's tax returns? Funny, nobody's talking about Trump's tax returns lately. It's uncanny now that they've been released. And then I got a couple other links, a link to the video from Anderson Cooper. I've got, this Uncle Hotep has a link here. Just we might go through that later. And then this is the one I wanted to get to, though. And I'll do Gun Fox's stories first thing tomorrow. I just noticed this from Cambridge Dictionary. So they had this this thing about female. This is the Cambridge Dictionary. Female, noun. So, and then some usages. Female, animal. The kitten was actually a female, not a male. Okay, that's an example sentence of the usage of the word female. But then formal, it says here, used in technical or scientific writing to refer to a woman or girl. The study participants included 350 males and 250 females, but they put this note on the end. This little note on the end says, except in scientific writing. Most people find this usage of female offensive. Now, I don't know what the definition of most people is here, but the Cambridge Dictionary says that referring to men and women as males and females is offensive. Oh boy. Okay, on that note, guys, I'm out of time, so I really got to finish this up. I'll get to those other articles that Gunfox gave me a little bit later, but thank you all for joining me today on the Morning Night Live. Couple program reminders. On Wednesday, I'm doing 2 shows, the normal 10 o'clock show, the 10 o'clock Eastern, and I'm also doing a 4 p.m. show. And the 4 p.m. show, I'm going to be here with none other than Nick Recato, the small-town lawyer from central Minnesota. Some call him a strip mall lawyer who spends most of his time on the internet. Very successful YouTuber and now Rumble contractee, and he's going to be here for a special show in the afternoon. And then on Friday, got to remind you about Friday. Friday is the 4th anniversary of this show. 4 years of the Morning Night Live. I'm going to have my friend Hard Bastard on the show, maybe a couple other guests, but so please make sure you tune in for those shows. Otherwise, I'm here Monday through Friday, 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central for the Morning Night Live. Please, before you click anything, hit the like button, share the stream, both on Rumble and on YouTube. And if you're not subscribed, well, you must be subscribed if you're not commenting, but you're not subscribed and you're watching, subscribe so you can comment. I'm watching the comment section. And also, if you'd be so kind, speaking of comment section, I'm sorry, the chat, you can be in the chat. If you'd be so kind, if you're watching on replay, put a comment in the comment section. Tell me what you think about Joe Biden's visit to the border. That's the one I want to hear. And then finally, if you want to sponsor the show like many people did, pdognight.live, 24 hours a day. Also during the show, I'll read those, any comments you make on the pdognight.live chats, and also YouTube super chats and Cash App and Venmo are in the description down below. Thank you today. Thank you every day for watching the show. I appreciate you. Gotta go though. So my name is P-Dog Knight and I'm out of here. Bye. Hey, this is P-Dog Knight, and thank you for watching today on the P-Dog Knight channel. If you have an observation or remark you'd like to make about this video or my channel, I absolutely welcome you to write it in the comment section down below. I really look forward to hearing from you. And before you go, if you like what you saw but you're not already subscribed, please make sure you hit the subscribe button and definitely click that bell that pops up afterwards so you'll be notified when I post new videos or when we go live. I broadcast my live show, The Morning Night Live, Monday through Friday at 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central. A special thank you to all the supporters of this channel who share our videos on social media and who make donations through Streamlabs, YouTube, Venmo, and Cash App, which are all linked in the description down below. Thanks again, and until next time, I'm P-Dog Knight, and I'm out of here.